In the fifth story, a boy named Nick, who mysteriously stopped coming to school one fine day. Nobody inquired about him until one day, a new teacher named Oil joined the school and became curious about why the boy hadn't been coming to school since the last semester. So, let's find out why Nick wasn't coming to school if he was stuck in some adverse situation, and if Oil could save Nick at the end of spectral class. Oil's goal was to become an administrative officer, but as of then, she needed the school job because she needed experience and good recommendations. Oil generally came to work on the school bus, and at the beginning of the story, we saw that after she fell asleep, the kids made some lewd remarks at her. She got off the bus, and for no apparent reason, a senior teacher exhaled sharply, looking at her as if she detested her presence. Maybe she was new at the job, and she had her way of dealing with things. And maybe the other senior teachers did not approve of her ways and means, and that is why they treated her in such a condescending manner. Oil was taking attendance when she realized that a boy named Pongsacorn, aka Nick, had not been attending the classes for a very long time. Some students told Oil that caretakers often reported that they saw Nick sitting in the class late at night. Now, the school didn't have funds, so it had a rotational policy where, one by one, every teacher had to stay back at the school and spend the night there. Oil didn't believe the rumors that Nick was seen by many teachers late at night on the school premises. She asked her colleagues why he didn't come to school, and nobody knew the real reason. Oil decided to go to Nick's house and ask his parents about the real issue. Nick's father and grandmother lived in a dilapidated house. They came off pretty strange when Oil went over, and she had this feeling that the reality was way more complicated and twisted than what they were telling her. Nick's grandmother, a creepy woman who looked like she was suffering from some mental disorder, told Oil that the boy had assaulted her and ran away from the house. The father, Numb, told Oil that Nick had started consuming drugs and that he hung out with addicts and other such people. The way Numb looked at Oil, the erratic behavior of the grandmother, and the entire vibe of the house made her a bit scared, and she left as soon as she could. Nick came to meet Oil at school, and that is when she got to know that the boy was tortured by his father and grandmother. He was being held captive in his own house, and he risked his life and escaped from there to ask for help from his teacher. Nobody asked about Nick after he stopped coming to the school, and Oil was the first one to go and inquire about him. So, Nick felt that he could trust Oil. Nick revealed that her grandmother visited the hermit, and he got her addicted to drugs. After that visit, her grandmother made her son have the same liquid that she prepared using black magic and horrifying ingredients. Nick's grandmother and his father started hallucinating, and they believed that they were being guided by Buddha and that the Lord would give them whatever they prayed for. Religious fanatics exist everywhere, and the entire scene reminded me of those multiple incidents where children were kidnapped by the so-called godmen and forced into child labor and other illegal activities. Numb and his mother tried to get Nick addicted to the substance they were having, and the poor kid resisted with all his strength because he didn't want to go insane like them. They were forcing him to serve the hermit at a Buddhist shrine, which they called Tavatimsa, which according to Buddhist mythology is one of the 6 desired realms. It was Oil's turn that day to stay at the school premises at night. She heard some strange sounds coming from the first floor. She gave a call to her colleague, who was probably supposed to be at the school with her. That man bailed on her, and Oil realized that she was all by herself. Oil went to the first floor, and she got the shock of her life when she found a frightened Nick there. Oil got scared as she believed that it was the spirit of the boy that her students told her that teachers often saw, but it was not so. Nick was alive, and he had run away from his house after Oil had gone over that day, asking about him. Nick's grandmother and father came to the school where he was hiding together with Oil. Nick was horrified, but Oil assured him that she wouldn't let anything happen to him. She tried her level best to save the boy, but Numb and his mother tortured her and forced her to consume the liquid. Before Oil could regain her consciousness and fight back, Nick bled to death. A hallucinating and trippy Oil then killed Numb and his mother in the most barbaric manner. In the end, when the teachers came to school, they were terrified after seeing the dead bodies. Oil managed to survive somehow, but she became so mentally disturbed that I don't think that she would ever be able to start teaching again. The sixth story begins with Bird moving into a new building, apartment number 407. He's got a friend named Key helping him out, and as soon as he shows up at the building, he imagines a woman falling from the sky to her death right in front of him. He even feels her blood on his face, but quickly realizes there isn't a woman or blood. When Bird gets a call from his mother, he doesn't pick up, and this repeats a couple of times throughout the episode. Key wonders why his friend is avoiding his mother. Additionally, Key asks Bird why he had to quit his job to trade online when he could do both things together. It seems Bird borrowed money from his friend and is scraping by because of that. Soon, Bird learns that a beautiful woman lives in the apartment next door. At night, when Key leaves, Bird takes some drugs, possibly to help him sleep, and in his drugged-up state, he hears a woman showering in his room and even speaking to him. But when he gets up off the bed, there's nobody there, and there's a note with some strange rules on it. It tells him not to be alarmed if he hears any strange noises, but he should make it look like nobody lives in his apartment after midnight. Certainly, an odd note to receive from your new neighbor, and he doesn't pay much heed to it. However, when he hears some banging on his door at night, he gets frightened, turns off all the lights, and follows the rules. Bird doesn't pick up his mother's calls because he knows he's done wrong by her. He's been taking drugs and wasting away, not something any parent would like, and likely, he didn't want to hear her nagging or talk to her at that moment so he could feel better about himself. The next day, Bird knocks on flat 406 even though there's a lock on the door. To his surprise, the door opens slightly, and he peeks at a woman in there. When he tells the security guard that someone's trapped in that room, the guy reacts as if Bird's gone insane. When Bird tells Key, he tells him that he'll ask the previous owner of the house if there's something fishy going on there. In the meantime, Bird tries to climb into the house through the balcony, but doesn't find anything unusual there. I've got to admit the two apartments look quite identical, and Bird suddenly wakes up on the toilet seat, making him realize he was dreaming the whole thing. On the other hand, Key meets the owner of flat 406. He and his wife, who was a nurse, moved into flat 406 back in the day. When he saw the girl next door, he was immediately attracted to her. The girl, Jane, and the man end up sleeping together, and his wife finds out. They end up leaving the apartment, but before he goes, he slips Jane a note with a warning. This is the same note Bird got when he arrived at the apartment. It was basically so Jane wouldn't get hurt because of the man's wife. However, the guilt was too much for Jane to handle, and she ended up taking her own life by jumping off the balcony. Bird gets trapped in the apartment at night, and the door is locked from the outside. There are a bunch of new rules he has to follow, like not touching the water in the apartment or trying to escape the room. Additionally, if anyone he knows comes to visit, he shouldn't make eye contact with them or follow them out. This part of the episode is a little bit out of sorts because it wants to surprise us with a twist. Bird is actually dead, and his mother is doing his final rituals, which include using water to cleanse and calling out to him. Bird still believes he's in the apartment, but actually, he's already dead. I guess the episode is in a way an anti-drug PSA. If Bird hadn't been doing drugs, he'd have never moved away or stopped talking to his mom. Additionally, Bird wasn't able to differentiate between reality and hallucinations, or ghosts, or whatever you'd like to believe, and so he drifted away from the people who cared for him and got isolated. He started to believe those rules and ended up trapping himself in a terrifying situation. Bird's mother steps into the apartment to say goodbye to her son one last time. He tries to reach out to her, but he's already gone because Jane leads him to the same fate as hers. He jumped off the balcony from room 407. When the flat door opens, his mom looks back to tell her son she's right there for him, but her friend tells her that her son's already in heaven. Unfortunately, we understand this is not true because Bird is stuck there just like Jane, and it's likely that anybody who moves into that apartment might suffer the same fate.